Very good evening. You're watching Beyond the Headline with me, Tamanna Inamdar. The big headline this evening was the arrest of Delhi Health Minister Satyendra Jain by the Enforcement Directorate in a money laundering case. The ED has also attached his and his relatives' properties worth 4.8 crore rupees. The big charges against the Delhi minister are holding disproportionate assets, money laundering, transactions through shell companies. He and his kins were allegedly shareholders in shell companies, and shell firms were used to park money as investments as per these charges. There are also charges that funds were used to buy land in Delhi between 2010 to 2016. Now, the case dates back to August 26, 2017, when the CBI first filed an FIR against Satyendra Jain on the allegation of assets disproportionate to income. Here's a brief timeline. On August 30th, 2017, the ED first registered the FIR against Jain on the money laundering angle and receipts of payments through alleged shell companies. These investigations pertain to some of his actions during his tenure as a public servant. In April 2018, Jain was questioned twice by the agencies. On April 5th, 2022, assets worth 4.8 crore rupees of Jain and others were attached by ED. And on May 30th, 2022, that's today, Jain was arrested by the ED. So in a nutshell, the crux of the case is that Jain, being a public servant in the government of Delhi, and his associates were allegedly involved in money laundering to the tune of 4.63 crore rupees during the year 2015-16 through shell companies based at Delhi. This apart, before becoming a public servant, he was allegedly involved in laundering of about 12 crore rupees during the years 2010 to 2012 through the above said companies, as well as other companies also based in New Delhi. It was also alleged that Jain had control over these companies, either in the form of being one of the directors of the company or by holding 1/3 shares of this company in his name or in the names of his family members and others. This apart, before becoming a public servant, he's also allegedly laundered some funds. Let me first go across to my colleague Bhavtosh to break down what exactly the scope of these charges is. Yes, go ahead, Bhavtosh.
Yes, Tamanna, in fact, the ED took cognizance of the FIR that was filed by the Central Bureau of Investigation, but ED went beyond the scope of the CBI FIR, which only pegged the total disproportionate asset at only 1.47 crore rupees. Now, investigation that was carried out by the Federal Probe Agency said that shell companies that were directly or indirectly controlled by the Jain family got accommodation entries from Kolkata-based Hawala entry operators in the period 2015-16, which was in form of cash worth at least 4.8 crore rupees. Now, through this money that these shell companies received, they said in Delhi and around Delhi, they purchased land, and they also paid loans of companies that directly or indirectly purchased land. There were also allegations that as a minister, he was access to certain cabinet notes of land, agriculture land that were being converted into industrial land. At that point of time, AAP had in fact denied all these charges. But investigation by ED also found that as soon as he became a public servant or the minister, he resigned from the directorship of these companies and then transferred the directorship of these companies to his wife, to his daughter, and then to his sister-in-law. These are the charges that have been leveled by the Enforcement Directorate. Now, Enforcement Directorate has also said that these companies continue to grow beyond the scope of 2015 and 2016, and over a period of time, Hawala operators continue to pump money into them, and then the money was also used to pump political activities of AAP. Now, those are very serious charges that have been leveled. As you rightly said, the initial investigation was done by the Income Tax Department. Prosecution complaint was filed, which cognizance of which was taken by the CBI. CBI filed a case of disproportionate asset. They filed a charge sheet. But ED's action happened only in April, and then subsequently today he was called in for questioning. He could not explain the source of money, and he was placed under arrest, and obviously a political battle has happened in the capital between AAP and BJP.
Let's take a look at that political battle, in fact. Thank you for those details, Bhavtosh Singh there. But let's take a quick look at some of those political reactions which have come in.
और इसी मामले से जोड़कर सीबीआई ने एक मामला दर्ज किया था, जिसमें सीबीआई ने कहा कि उनके पास कोई साक्ष्य नहीं। सत्येंद्र जैन को क्लीन चिट दिया लेकिन जैसे ही सत्येंद्र जैन हिमाचल प्रदेश के इंचार्ज बनाए जाते हैं, वैसे ही भारतीय जनता पार्टी के पेट में दर्द शुरू हो जाता है। भारतीय जनता पार्टी हिमाचल प्रदेश में चुनाव हार रही है और इसी के कारण से सत्येंद्र जैन की एक फर्जी बेबुनियाद मामले में गिरफ्तारी की गई है।
बहुत समय के बाद, सारे साक्ष्य जुटाने के बाद आज ये गिरफ्तारी हुई है और अरविंद केजरीवाल को जवाब देना पड़ेगा इस दिल्ली को कि कहां है उनकी ईमानदारी। कमाल की बात है, सिखाने चले हैं दुनिया को ईमानदारी और उन्हीं के मंत्री बन गए हैं हवाला कारोबारी।
तो सिर्फ बयानों में कि हम भ्रष्टाचार के मामले में जीरो टॉलरेंस नीति अपनाते हैं, तो आप क्या जीरो टॉलरेंस नीति अपनाएंगे? सत्येंद्र जैन को बर्खास्त करेंगे? तो मैं 100% कहता हूं, आज जो सच सामने आया है यही सच था। अरविंद केजरीवाल जो भ्रष्टाचार के खिलाफ लड़ाई लड़ने की बात किया करते थे, वो पूरी तरह से झूठ था।
All right, Vinit Goenka of the BJP and Dr. Sunny Ahluwalia of the Aam Aadmi Party with me on the show right now. Dr. Ahluwalia, let me come to you first. This is not looking good for your government and for your leader. What is the explanation you have this evening, sir?
This is a complete case of political vendetta, where at one time the BJP promises so many things, but they are so afraid because Satyendar Jain is the in charge of Himachal Pradesh. So they are losing badly in Himachal. And that is the reason of the arrest by ED of Satyendar Jain. There is no case and he has appeared before the ED many times and he has been given clean chit as well. The case which stands in the court, you will soon see that Satyendar Jain will be released free of any charges just because they don't want the Satyendar Jain to go to Himachal again and again.
No, but Dr. Ahluwalia, if you're saying that there are no charges, that the charges aren't clear, then let the process continue, sir. Why today are you saying it's vendetta?
It is a clear case of vendetta. Why in 5 years they are unable to locate anything out of it? Why now, at the time of BJP elections in Himachal, they are trying to accuse one of the person who has done nothing? And that is the
Let me ask that question to Mr. Goenka. Why now? The question is about the timing, Mr. Goenka.
Yeah, so thank you for calling me on this debate. And next time what we'll do is when the CBI or ED wants to raid, we will go to Dr. Ahluwalia and ask him, should we raid somebody? Should the agencies inquire into the corrupt practices? शर्म आनी चाहिए। चोर और ऊपर से कोतवाल को डांटे, मुंह छुपाना चाहिए आपने अपना। I'll tell you, take the case of 29 September 2021 of Express News, whereby 7 temporary hospitals were built in that period when COVID was at the peak at Shalimar Bagh, Kirari, Sultanpuri, GTP Nagar, and Raghubir Nagar. Now, our MP Manoj Tiwari had leveled that there was a project which was sanctioned for 1,216 crore rupees in single day without due process being followed.
So, are you talking about this case, Mr. Goenka? What case are you talking about?
Yeah. So, who issued this? This was under the health ministry. It was under Satyendra
Jain.
Jain.
Let's talk about the case today.
What was the intention? Intention was corruption. Nothing else. Single thing. Number 2, what is common in Kalchan developers, Indo Metal Impacts, Parias Info Solution, Malam Projects, Idle, JJ Idle Estate, Swati Jain of Vaibhav Jain, and all these names. There is one thing which is common, which is the money which has been received as a Hawala receipts or as the gracious payment for some favors been done in the cases. Now, if Mr. Ahluwalia wants to say that this is all wrong, let me remind him that there was a Sunglu committee been appointed by the then governor, Mr. Nazib Jha, which also found that he has done corruption to a level where he has done appointments. And what appointments? His own daughter has been appointed as to be advisor of health committee, this what you call as Mohalla committee, which has been there. And everywhere there is a corruption. Whether there is a purchase of medicines, whether there is appointments, everywhere there is corruption. This is a clear, shut and open case. There's nothing else. I think.
Okay, I'll let Dr. Ahluwalia respond to that. He's saying it's a shut, open and close case. Dr. Ahluwalia, frankly, we'll have to wait for the entire Enforcement Directorate investigation to play out. We'll have to wait for the charge sheet. We know that sometimes the actual convictions in these cases are not very high. This might be true, this might not be true. There's an investigation on right now. But just the one point about family members or kin of the health minister featuring as directors of this company, just that one point, how would you explain that?
The I first want to say to Mr. Goenka that this debate is on which case and you're talking about what all. You have
Sir,
nothing to
corruption
say.
का
You have nothing to say, Mr. Goenka. You have nothing to say.
Sir, we speak one by one on these debates. So, Mr. Goenka, you'll have to wait your turn.
You, Mr. Goenka, you have nothing to say. You are just trying to, change the direction of the debate to something else. Number one. Number two. No, wait, Mr. Goenka, please don't do this kind of gundagardi. We know you are a member of BJP.
Dr. Ahluwalia, 1 minute, 1 minute. Gentlemen, can I just come in here? 1 minute. Mr. Goenka, Mr. Ahluwalia, let me just explain how this debate will function on this particular show. I request both of you to first listen to me because I know you take part in a lot of debates and this is how you usually continue them. But here on this show, the only purpose is to explain to viewers what is going on. This mudslinging against each other, frankly, is a waste of people's time, right? So let's stick to the question I've asked. Dr. Ahluwalia, I asked you, how do you explain that members of the family of the minister are directors of these companies? How would you explain that, sir?
The people who were the owners of this company during 2015 and during 2017 have confessed to their crimes in the court and clearly submitted that all the money belongs to them. The court has also accepted this point. So things are very clear that who are the culprit and who are not. So they are just trying to get involved in Satyendar Jain name because they have a fear of losing election in Himachal. That is all. Nothing else they are trying to say. And one more thing I want to add. They know they are losing Himachal. They know they are losing Gujarat. And next action will be on the Prabhari of Gujarat very soon. You can see that.
Okay, Mr. Goenka, on the charge, and this is a charge across opposition parties, that the Enforcement Directorate, the CBI, are often used as political tools. What would you say to that and the timing that Dr. Ahluwalia is referring to again and again?
The classical case, where that Hindi saying of Ulta Chor Kotwal ko date comes up. Now, every time when there is an arrest been done by a corrupt, incompetent person involved into malpractices, then this kind of excuses come out. Now, do we go and ask Mr. Ahluwalia, Dr. Ahluwalia and Mr. Kejriwal, आपका आदमी corrupt है, उसको arrest करे कि नहीं करे? Number one, let me remind him what Dr. Ahluwalia will tell to me about Supreme Court's, penalties been levied on the Satyendra Jain when he was charged 25,000 rupees for chikungunya case. Was that it? It was also a case when he was appointed as Himachal Prabhari. Now, please tell me, sir, if you have done some corruption, if you are involved into malpractices, your family members are involved in malpractices, you have to accept that. Your chief, Arvind Kejriwal, has to sack him. Rather, he should also resign as a chief minister.
Okay, broader question here. Mr. Goenka, broader question. 1 minute.
Not one case. Let me complete. Now, if this is the case that there is one person being corrupt and there are list of corrupt people in Aam Aadmi Party. Vijay Singla, minister, who was appointed minister on 19
I'm talking about this specific case. Mr. Goenka, I'm talking about this specific case. This is a sitting minister in the party. I'm talking about this specific case. And can I just pose the question to you, Mr. Goenka?
All these people are, they are
1 minute. Mr. Goenka, can I pose the question to you? I'm talking about the larger accusation from opposition parties who often find themselves at the receiving end of ED and CBI investigations. How come there is no investigation against anyone from the ruling party?
Kejriwal and his team, they also blame, but he's been punished, he's been accused, he's been sentenced to some terms which were done by court, where courts involved with Bharatiya Janata Party. Amanatullah Khan has been characterized as to be bad character. There is evidences where he was involved, or Tahir Hussain. Now that was also a case of vendetta by Bharatiya Janata Party. Come on, you'll have to talk about Kailash Gehlot, the transport minister of Delhi. Income tax has given him notices for tax evasion. What can you do? CBI has raided principal secretary of CM of Delhi on 15 December 2015. We know that Ansu Prakash, he was manhandled in front of the chief minister. Now, all these cases show one thing which is very common. MLAs, representatives of Aam Aadmi Party are corrupt. They're involved.
Last word from you, Dr. Ahluwalia. I'll give you the closing comments. Last word from you. Will you say today that if there is any truth to these charges, which will be proven then as investigations continue or in a court of law, that the right action will be taken against Mr. Jain, even if he's a minister in your Delhi government?
That courage they don't have.
See, this is a baseless case. And
They can only
BJP...
say police are innocent.
Mr. Goenka, it's his turn to speak. That's not fair, sir. He listened to you. Yes, Dr. Ahluwalia.
this is a baseless case. This is a fake case. What BJP is trying to put in front of people. Only because of crushing loss, the fear of loss at Himachal, they are putting up this case. I just want to ask them, how old is this case? How it just, sir, Mr. Goenka?
No, Mr. Goenka, that's not how we're doing this.
Madam, at least
Yeah,
have
I
educated
promise that
people.
he will have a chance to speak as well. You've had your chance to speak in uninterrupted.
Just-
Dr. Ahluwalia, I asked you what is the action you will take if these charges are correct.
Madam, court has given clean chit to Mr. Satyendar Jain. Court has given. We have not given. Court
It's a
has
different.
given.
That's a different charge.
No,
This is a different charge.
Just let me complete, please. ED has called him several times and has given green chit. But now, after waiting for some time, they are trying to nap our health minister. Yes, Mr. Arvind Kejriwal has clearly said any MLA, any minister, if found guilty or if found in any corrupt case against him, he will be removed from the ministry as done in Punjab. So
Okay.
they don't need to tell us what we have to do.
Okay, we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see how these charges stand up in a court of law. I will end it here. Thank you so much, Mr. Vinit Goenka and Dr. Ahluwalia, for joining us on this.